It is championship weekend 2025 in the Western Ultimate League here at Fremont High School in the East Bay Area, California. A slightly overcast day, and we are bringing you the third place game this morning. Everything to play for bronze between Colorado Alpenglow and Seattle Tempest. Two teams that came up a little bit short in last night's semifinal, but everything to play for today. I am Katie Killebrew, joined by Manisha Daryani. Manisha, what a night of semifinals we had last night.
Yes, they were excellent games, both semifinal games. Again, Seattle just losing by 1 to San Diego Super Bloom. Colorado coming up short against the Bay Area Falcons by 3. Two teams that have never been in this game before, Katie.
This is true. Both of these teams have won titles in the past, but they've never quite been in this third place game. And it's interesting this season because they didn't actually play each other in the regular season. And if we look at all time, these teams are tied 2-2 apiece, each winning their 2 home games. And now it's a totally different, almost neutral territory here in the Bay Area.
So actually today's games both will actually be first-time matchups, both this third-place game as well as the championship game, which will be coming at you later today at 3 p.m. But as Katie said, these two teams who definitely thought they should or could or would have been in the finals today, are now playing each other. And with two teams having not seen each other before, I am expecting fireworks.
Well, you heard it. Fireworks to come soon. Don't go anywhere. The third-place game coming at you. California dreaming on such a winner's day. It is the competition for bronze, the third place game between Seattle Tempest and Colorado Alpenglow. Trying to figure out who really is the top matchup of these two teams. They almost couldn't be more evenly matched.
They're evenly matched, Katie, but they're fundamentally different in the way that they play. Colorado loves to play big. They want to stretch the field. We talked about last night's performance. We'll get to that in a second. But Tempest, a team that is going to be willing to try and be patient, swing the disc. They have excellent handlers that they're willing to break and switch the field, something that Colorado struggled with last night.
We did see some struggles in that semifinal. But today, I feel like the wind is pretty neutral. They've played in this stadium before. But if we wanted to talk a little bit more about how that semifinal went, let's talk about Seattle Tempest.
So Seattle Tempest was really spearheaded by that handler core. We've talked about Cheryl Sue's name constantly, but Sadie Drzeski really making a mark in last night's game as well, finishing with 1 score, 3 assists. Cheryl Sue, 2 scores, 3 assists to her name as well. And a name that we thought we were going to talk about yesterday, Drea Baroma, somewhat quiet and muted day today. Note, Drea will be playing in the number 92 today, so if you're seeing and looking for your favorite player, that's where you'll be finding Drea Baroma today.
A little mishap with maybe forgetting that that other jersey. But it's interesting to see that this team is excited to play in this game. Talking with Coach Anna Maria Pate beforehand, she was talking about wanting to go out of this season, having one more game together and wanting to go out on a win.
And I think that's what every team wants, Katie. When you get to the end of a season, you want to end with that W. Yes, it's a hard pill to swallow, a loss at any point in the season, particularly when you're talking about a playoff matchup. But yes, this Seattle team is hungry. The Seattle team came very early to the fields this morning, getting ready to warm up for this game.
Yeah, Colorado Alpenglow, as they are running and taking the field, had a little bit, I think, their first loss of the season last night. They were perfect coming in as the 1 seed, 6-0 with a 36-point differential. But looking at this roster, Manisha, what are you seeing? What was the story of this semifinal for Alpenglow?
I'm going to talk about who I couldn't stop seeing last night, which was Abby Thorpe with an 8-goal performance last night. Abby truly tried to take the team on her back, and unfortunately the team just could not give the goals needed. It was a 16-19 scoreline, but a team that relies on stars. Let's be clear. This is a team full of stars. Those stars shined. They want to shine brighter today.
Well, we'll see what Colorado Alpenglow can do after coming back on their first loss of the season, wanting to end on a win as well, looking sharp in those whites, the break mark apparel there on show. I love also seeing this league and these teams as they are taking the field in this game being recognized for the work that they put in and getting the opportunity to play here at championship weekend. If you had keys for the game or something else to talk about for this, what would you say that it is, Manisha?
Before I get to that, Katie, you reminded me, we are also going to have the player awards at the end of today's game. So we talk about making sure people get their flowers. All of the 5 major awards will be awarded at the end of today's broadcast. Again, that's MVP, offensive player, defensive player, breakout player, and coaching staff of the year. So please make sure you stick around. Hopefully you've seen all of the nominees. We'll talk about them throughout the broadcast, but we will be announcing those winners at the end of this particular broadcast.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see who wins. The race is so close in so many of those categories. It's hard to tell who's going to be there.
But yes, Katie, let's go back. So let's talk about what's going to be the keys of this game. If I am Seattle, who we see on the screen right now, I want to make sure I keep possession. What Seattle struggled with yesterday is when they were able to get the turn, which they did, they could not capitalize because they would consistently turn it back to San Diego. So if I'm Seattle, I'm focusing on possession.
And if you didn't get to catch the semifinals yesterday, or you're new to a Western Ultimate League game, these are some of the important rules for this league.
Yes, so Katie, this is a quartered game, meaning we are playing on a clock. So we have 4 quarters of 12 minutes. We are playing on a slightly longer field. It's on the full length of an American football field, 80 yards. It does feel like 80 yards by the time you get to the end of the game. But more importantly, this is a self-officiated game. We do have Zerbers available for some of calls, which will be active, such as up and down, in and out. And then there are instant referral calls, where some calls you will see an observer step in and then tell the game to keep moving. But the more important thing, Katie, is this is a 7-second game. That means the disc must move from one player to another player within 7 seconds or a loss of possession is established. You will see that call a lot. It's called a stall. It'll be signified by someone tapping the top of their head, Katie.
And as the captains talk and do a coin flip, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere because this game is about to start. The teams are getting ready to take the field in the third place game, playing for bronze. The Western Ultimate League Championship weekend. Colorado Alpenglow, the #1 seed, falling in semis last night to the Bay Area Falcons. What is the key to the game for them, Manisha?
For Colorado, it's going to be about earning breaks. Their O-line is vaulted. They are incredible. They were able to get consistent holds. But to win games, Katie, you got to get breaks.
And looking at their full season stats, what stands out to you as the difference between these two teams, Manisha?
I mean, Colorado Alpenglow, as you said, you can see with the hold percentage, that's a reflection of that O-line. That O-line's success, their ability, their chemistry amongst each other is reflected in this hold percentage rate. And this is the area where they're going to have to get their D-line to match that rate as well. Seattle Tempest is a mixed bag. They can grind out points. They're going to have turnovers, but they find ways to get it back, and that's what Colorado has to do today. If they give it up, they got to get it back, and more importantly, they have to make Seattle turn the disc and then punish them when they do.
As the teams take the field, there is Seattle Tempest, Sadie Jezierski holding the disc. Seattle is going to start on defense. That season mighty Colorado Alpenglow O-line on the field, anchored by Ari Nelson and Abby Thorpe, who, like you said, got 8 goals in last night's game.
Unreal.
And the first pull is up. We are underway. Colorado moving left to right on your screen is going downwind directionally. Ari Nelson getting to May Hecht. Thorpe. Big throw through the middle of the field. 2 Seattle defenders almost get a hand on it, but it's Alicia Dixon to Jade McLaughlin for the first Colorado score.
Efficient. I'll give him that. Abby Thorpe, again, we're going to be calling this name a lot. Again, last night, finding the end zone, in this case being the distributor. Yes, it was a little bit low, but it was high enough to be able to hit Dixon.
Linnea Sue got a hand on that. I think the other defenders did too. That was just literally the millimeters, the fingernails breadth between that disc being a deed and completed.
It's exactly the start you would want as Colorado. You want to establish this is going to be your field, your tempo, your pace.
Especially after losing on this field under the lights last night and now having to play this game. Veldman with the pull upfield.
That's a great question, Katie. Do you think the fact that Seattle, who played the early game, is fresher for this game?
I think every team had to play a lot, but those couple of hours don't seem to have helped Cheryl Sue. First throw turn for Seattle. Veldman upline, reels it in. Getting it back. Inside now to Lavoie. And Veldman jumps in bounds. The break from Colorado. Starting off strong. Alpenglow is here to make a statement.
I agree. I mean, again, if I'm Colorado, again, understanding you were coming in as the 1 seed, you thought you were going to be playing in the 3 p.m. game, you want to make a statement that that was an aberration and this team is still to be revered in this league. Not only this season, but seasons to come.
Talking with coaches before the championship weekend, they really lauded Bristol Lavoie. Bristol Lavoie has been a member of this team for all 3 years that Alpenglow has been in the Western Ultimate League, but hasn't been able to make an impact and has really worked on elevating her game at this point and is contributing consistently for this Colorado side. So technically, I think wasn't eligible for Breakout Player of the Year, but has been having a really impactful season for Colorado Alpenglow as they get this now downwind break opportunity
with a flick.
A flick pull downwind with potential rolling capabilities. I don't hate that decision as we see the dynamic duo of Cheryl Sue and Hannah Kwai.
This is the same O-line we saw on the last point. They kept that line back on.
Cushy now with the disc here to Erickson, inbounds. Looking for that backhand up the line, perfectly weighted to Tremonti. And Seattle go upwind with their offensive line. The trust in their system to put them on again. Sometimes Seattle has been a little bit shaky with their O-line, but talked about making adjustments with the personnel to be peaking here at championship weekend.
Well, this is the bread and butter of Seattle, their ability to go up the line and create open lanes for their cutters. They're so disciplined downfield. They don't clog lanes. They make sure one is cutting at one at a time, but more importantly, the timing. Erickson's throw is a dime because of the timing of that cut. It's that you started about 7 yards away, you're going in an upwind direction, and Erickson can just put it out flat and then allow your receiver to run it down. Rather than attacking where the receiver is, you send the receiver and say, you go get that disc.
And what a receiver in Nada Tremonti, who did the majority of her playing in the Washington, D.C. area, playing for D.C. Scandal, and then moved to Spokane, Washington.
West Coast, best coast.
But it's still quite a drive to Seattle, so the commute that she puts in to be able to be part of this team, they said, cannot be underestimated.
And let's be clear, Colorado also has a lot of commuting players as well. These teams have been really pushing to create culture and to create chemistry amongst a number of players who are not within the same geographic vicinity.
Dixon elevates over the Seattle defense to Veldman. Lavoie trying to get a disc through those three defenders that are clustered around the handler, which we might call a cup.
Interesting to see Nelson sitting out to the outside, the bottom of your screen.
Now getting it to Kawabata further away from the disc. Veldman streaking deep. Thorpe in the middle. No one marking Kawabata for the moment. Now a switch happened as Thorpe has the disc. Thorpe guarded by Jezierski.
Such savvy defense to just leave Kawabata open for that long.
And Kawabata gets it done with Sarah Ito, the captain of Alpenglow, with a score on the board.
Nice patience coming out of Colorado. The Seattle zone looks are meant to frustrate. They're meant to create lots of passes. And again, we saw what we would assume to be your center handler in Nelson sitting to the sideline, allowing the two remaining handlers to really work amongst themselves. And of course, you have the threat of Abby Thorpe in the middle of the field as well. It makes it really hard to contain all that space.
Yeah, Nelson is a thrower that's really difficult to contain, and it almost looks like what I would call a box and one defense, where you're playing zone, but you're playing hard person defense on Nelson to try to move them out of that handler space. We'll have to see if Seattle does a similar thing to try to take Nelson out of play. But Colorado did a great job of using that team play, not necessarily utilizing Nelson, but still scoring in that upwind direction. We saw very few scores that way yesterday in the semifinals, but I would say that the wind was a little bit stronger last night. Kauai. Upfield to Lee.
Colorado now with their own zone look.
Erickson on the near sideline. We saw that backhand going up, this time going with the forehand. Sue and Kauai get it to the far side. Sue trying to direct traffic, finding holes in this poaching defense. And it's Lee to Captain Jesse Crowley for the Tempest hold.
A nice transition, quick movement, forced Colorado to have to play back into person defense, and then utilizing the width of the field to be able to find a target in the middle.
You can see the observer's hands going up to signal score. Crowley is a player that doesn't maybe get talked enough about, but is an emotional leader for this Seattle side, as one of the captains, and is really consistent on the field. Not necessarily a flashy playmaker, but continues to be in the right space at the right time, which is really important for these offense.
And this is Crowley's first score of the weekend as well. Now a pull out of bounds means Nelson will center the disc at the brick mark.
Yeah, the brick mark is in the center of the field from sideline to sideline. Thorpe on the near side gets a reset with Hecht. To Veldman, those inside angle throws working again, same angle to Dixon.
Interesting to see Veldman on this O-line today.
Dixon finds Kawabata in the middle of the field, has Ito on the open side, but tries to find something else. An leading pass for Nelson. Nelson to Veldman. Clean holds have been the hallmark of Colorado Alpenglow, and they do it again.
Second goal for Veldman already. And actually, as I said, the thought about Veldman being on the O-line, it occurred to me that Sarah Levin is not playing in today's game, and that was one of the players on their O-line. So it does make sense now we're seeing Veldman being moved over. Veldman typically on the D-line. Very possible Veldman will stay on this point. I'm not sure if I'm seeing that yet, but I can see, and a smart transition switch. We understand Sarah Levin was injured for today's game.
Yeah, but definitely hyping it up on the sideline. Veldman not on this defensive point, getting a little bit of a rest because this is a game of 4 quarters, and with those timed quarters, the game is longer than a traditional USA Ultimate game, and they can add up. It takes a lot of mileage, and you really need those legs in the 4th quarter, especially if it's going to be clean holds like this. It looks like that disc landed just out of bounds, so it's going to be centered.
I know we're saying clean holds, but Colorado does already have a break early in this game.
But that was a clean break as well.
It was a clean break, yes.
It's been a very clean 1 turnover so far in the game.
Correct.
Kauai goes over the top. A slightly different zone look again from Colorado. These two teams didn't play in the regular season, so they haven't had a chance to play against each other's defenses before. It's about adapting in the moment as Sue finds Cushy. Cushy and Sue now on the far side of the field. Kauai's upline opened the lane to Tremonti. Trying to cycle players through, have the Alpenglow players switch. Kirkland in the middle. Up and over the top into space. Sue gets it and launches one into the end zone all the way, laying out. Was
what
it in
grab?
bounds?
I think that is in bounds. That was a great grab, Katie.
That is Drea Baroma.
Guess that 92 suits her.
This up and over the top, the defender thought about making a play and then couldn't. Sue takes advantage and goes there all the way to the end zone line. What a grab. Sliding out of bounds, Drea Baroma. What a catch.
I love that Cheryl Sue pointed before putting that throw up. That was the best part of that play. Drea, nice work. Let's see another angle of this.
You can see turn and putting on the Jets, really getting their full effort layout. The form to catch and keep possession just by the pinching of her fingers. Great play from Seattle Tempest to work through the zone.
Also, maybe a little Sports Center top 10 worthy, Katie? I don't know.
I liked it. Let's see. Another pole landing out of bounds. The poles today in this downwind direction, you have the opportunity to really, it must have, because they're going to half field, it looks like this must have been an offside, or that's where it went out. Unsure. Yeah, there's the middle of the field as Dixon.
Alicia Dixon's like, where's the 50?
Right there in the middle where it says 5-0. Thorpe goes upwind as well, blading back. Can Veldman read it? Veldman with the roll. What an answer from Colorado Alpenglow.
Efficient. That's what the word is. Efficient. Abby Thorpe saw Cheryl Sue and said, I can do that as well. Little stylistically different, a much curvier throw. Veldman has to read it, being guarded by a great defender, and yet able to come down into that space and smartly avoiding Ito, or Ito smartly avoiding Veldman.
I think Ito was there to back up Veldman in case it went too far over
Ito
her
has made
head.
a career out of finding what we call garbage passes, being able to collect the garbage. Ito, again, always understanding where to go, following the play, an excellent example of downfield cutting, by the way.
If you're trying to learn, there are few better cutters to learn from than Sarah Ito.
And a career that has expanded decades at this point.
That is a much better pull from Alpenglow. Kawhi facing the zone to Erickson and Sue. Inside low, but up. Seattle patient against this zone, finding the holes. Antolin upfield for Hasbrook. Has Kirkland. Goes to Kawhi. Inside to Sue. The pivot, the speed from Sue gets so many throws open, moving quickly. Kawhi, Kirkland, and Sue motoring around. The fill from Cushy, giving and going up line just like they drew it up. Kawhi to Cushy for the Seattle score.
And Kawhi really picking up where she left off. She had 3 assists last night. Now 1 to her name. That's Cushy's first goal. And a nice response from Seattle, by the way, just to keep this game close. Again, it's really 1 turn, 1 break at this point, and we are more than halfway through this first quarter.
Combat Candy is the premier sponsor of the Western Ultimate League. And Breakmark is the WUL's official apparel provider. Our coverage today would not be possible without the support from Breakmark and Combat Candy. Thank you for those of you who are joining us. Another pull out of bounds. I know there are coaches watching this broadcast that are tearing their hair out with the loss of yardage from those pulls being out of bounds as Veldman.
I don't know. I think that there's something strategic about not allowing Colorado to start in motion and forcing them to have to start from a static place. Our first block.
Going the other direction, Decker gets the quick break for Seattle, tying it up.
Colorado's first turn of the game, and Seattle capitalizes with a break.
There have been only 2 turns in this game, and both of them have been converted into breaks. It is all even here as we see Decker getting it over Kawabata.
Efficiency, that's what you want. You want to be able to get this disc and keep possession and punish the team for the turnover. And it was unfortunate for Colorado. It was largely near towards the end zone that they're trying to avoid. And so Seattle just had short field to make do of this, and it was 2 passes. There's the break.
You were saying it was strategic to get them to start from a static position, and then that is what yielded the turnover. Up and over the top.
Too far.
Another D for Seattle. Jezierski calling the foul as almost she dove, being marked by Jade McLaughlin.
And Jezierski really patrolling this deep space, very common as part of the zone looks that we see coming out of Seattle. We have her in this backfield. Jezierski, by the way, representative of Team USA on multiple Worlds teams as well.
So is Jade McLaughlin. They probably know each other pretty well at this point. Jezierski, as we get back into action, hitting Decker. Elmi.
Seattle in that vert stack.
Up, floating in the pile. Decker brings it down again.
And you saw the Colorado player just trying to maintain a safe distance in that. Avoid any collisions.
Jezierski backhand for the end zone. And it's another break for Seattle. Lauren Page in the end zone. What a swing of momentum. It's like Seattle Tempest sprung a trap for the Colorado offense, and now they are up.
Well, it was two things. It started, let's just watch this replay. This is Jezierski's bread and butter. Want to be able to throw this deep throws. And you saw the fake earlier. And then once you have the space, Jezierski will not hesitate to throw that throw. But really, it started with a turnover. It was an errant pass from Colorado. Went over, Jezierski in the backfield, cleaning it fieldly. And then the Seattle defensive offense able to manage to move in this direction. There were two instances in which Colorado could have gotten D, but Seattle with the break.
And they're changing their defenses, trying to stop the momentum of the Nelson and Thorpe connection. Nelson and Hecht. Nelson, big throw towards the end zone, intended for Thorpe, being guarded by Jamie Erickson, who elevates and gets another block for Tempest.
That's a matchup that's going to be very interesting to watch. Abby Thorpe on Jamie Erickson. That height mismatch might be enough to make up for Thorpe's incredible ability to read the disc.
Baroma to Cushy, who's now on the sideline, tightly guarded by by Kawabata. Erickson now with the disc upfield, trying to find now Elmi up the line. If I know a Seattle team, they're going to go up the line, and they do with Linnea Sue, but Nelson signaling with the tap of the head on the mark is that it is a stall.
And this is where the observers are going to have to come in. Either they're going to make an instant referral or they're going to contest it. So one of these two things are going to happen, because I can't imagine Elmi agreeing. Well, maybe Elmi could agree to the stall.
Hard to tell. Nelson did signal pretty quickly, but may have been there. If you're looking there, it looks like a stall, no contest. I saw the hand signal.
So the observers are used to using hand signals to be able to signal what is happening on the field. And it looks like right now the outcome is that the disc is on the ground. It is a stall.
Yeah, it is a stall, and it's going to be a turnover as the players move it back in. Elmi guarding Nelson, who doesn't hesitate to go the other direction. Dixon. Too far for Ito.
Not too
far for Ito. Veldman there trying to get the second effort, but the turning speed of Ito bouncing out of the hand of Nelson. Two turns for Colorado. Too far for Elmi.
And this is what hurt Seattle yesterday. They were able to get the disc on defense and then immediately giving it back. That was two opportunities for Seattle to get another break in this game.
And 55 seconds on the clock. So Colorado here will want to be patient, retain possession, because once the clock runs out, that possession is played out until either a turn or a score. Bounce it out of Veldman's hand. Back in. Thorpe going upfield, shooting for the end zone. Two defenders in the area. Kawabata gets up, but too late. Cushy grabs it. And now with 24 seconds.
I believe there may have been a timeout called.
It looks like Elmi, far away from the disc, is signaling injury. Unsure if that injury occurred before or after the D, because an injury immediately stops play when it happens. but it looks like Cushy is going to retain possession here for Seattle Tempest.
And Colorado also allowed to substitute players when an injury happens. So in other words, because Seattle is adding a player in or replacing a player, Colorado is allowed to do the same. I see Ito coming off the field, Colorado replacing with a defensive player.
Linnea Sue upfield for Erickson. Erickson now guarded by Veldman. Centering. Inside, too much for Sue. 12 seconds on the
10 seconds
clock.
left. That means that at this point, Colorado will likely retain possession for the end of this quarter. It'll either end with a Colorado turn or score.
And I heard a whistle. Was it before or after the throw? It looks like a timeout with Nelson being saved for the turn from the turnover.
So that's what the discussion is right now. Was the timeout called before Nelson released the disc? The observers are signaling, yes, it was. A timeout now being implemented. A timeout, Katie, by the way, allows all players to be substituted. It also critically resets the stall count, which is why we often hear coaches or see coaches calling the timeout from the sideline utilizing the whistle. The observers are trained to listen for the whistle, and when they hear the whistle, if the disc is still in the hand of the offensive player, it remains in the hands.
Yeah, I could see Colorado Alpenglow offensive coach Thomas Eccles on the far side getting very amped about wanting that timeout, wanting to put this O-line on, as we see Maxfield joining the field and McLaughlin.
Well, largely the same crew, actually, Katie, but the difference there in this case, again, is the reset of the stall. There's two reasons you can call a timeout. You call a timeout because you need to replace some of your offensive players with defensive players, or you call a timeout because you just need to reset things, especially that stall.
4 seconds on the clock. A reminder that we're going to play out the possession once you hear the buzzer. So the question is, will Colorado score right out of that timeout? The answer is they will. Seattle looked stunned as that disc came in, but the player touched it, and that was Maxfield.
Look at the clock, Katie. Look at the clock.
They're going to get another shot at this. Nelson upfield, Maxfield unguarded.
So with 1 second on the clock, Colorado perhaps throwing too early, now giving Seattle an opportunity to end this quarter on their possession. So Seattle can end up 7-6 at the end of this quarter, or once this point plays itself out.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, because we had a lot of turns in that point, that was a hold for Colorado.
Correct.
That took 3 turns and a timeout in order to complete.
That is correct.
And now Seattle has a chance because they have this time on the clock. They're going to get this possession in order to punch one in and go up what I would call a skinny break, because it's that extra time in between. As we see Hasbrook now with the disc in the middle of the field for Seattle. Kawhi thinking about it.
High.
Sue and Kawhi. Hasbrook coming back. Kirkland being tightly marked and pushed away from the disc. Now Cushy. Baroma going deep. Looking for Kawhi. Kawhi upfield to Erickson. Baroma has yards but doesn't have the momentum. Kawhi goes upfield, goes around to Sue instead.
And Seattle can be patient and
Cushy
lucky
with the sticky fingers. Gets the second effort. Kawhi to Erickson. Seattle Tempest is doing a great job of having 2 options for the handlers, and the defense can't take away everything. Baroma on the doorstep. The flip to Cushy. They do it. Baroma to Cushy to go up 7-6.
What a nice use of the clock, or in this case, the lack of clock. No reason to rush. But yes, Katie, continue to have multiple options, had enough time to calmly run their set and take advantage of this last point.
So many points were able to be played in that first quarter. If this holds, we have an exciting third place game ahead of us. More after the break.
Creatine is only for extreme athletes who eat dominance.
Actually, let's skip that part. Combat Candy is for everyone who trains hard and deserves better than choking down powder. 5 grams of science-backed creatine and a gummy that turns supplement routine into something to look forward to. Just because your workout is serious business doesn't mean your creatine supplement is me. Combat Candy. Making strength frickin' delicious. Try it at combatcandies.com.
In the third place game at championship weekend, Seattle Tempest up by 1. The clock had expired, but they continued possession. The sticky grab from Cushy, Hasbrook, and the whole team working together to get this score.
Again, just the patience, the willingness to switch the field, finding the right easy look. Just textbook. Wonderful.
That is 2 goals for Anna Cushy, but has really been a player that has stepped up in the semifinal last night when the handlers had been really shut down, and is being an outlet for this Seattle O-line. Seattle on offense again. We saw them at the last point, but because of the flip, they're now going to be on offense, going upwind as we start this second quarter. Rory Veldman from Colorado to pole.
And teams will get basically a chance to play everything everywhere. The Seattle team starts on the same side of the field for the first half, but we flip on the second half. We'll end up seeing Seattle on the upwind side in the second half.
Nada Tremonti with the disc. Cheryl Sue, a pick upfield, stops play. You can see the hands from the thrower acknowledging.
And the hands just coming up as if you're almost like looking like you're doing a score or fists up. That's not a good explanation.
It's sometimes difficult to auditorily talk about a visual symbol, but getting back in way, the visual symbols help us move the game along. Kawhi on the far side of the field, inside shot to Nada Tremonti. Tremonti blocked by Pesh. Oh, a foul being called by Tremonti.
So the players will discuss. Again, as a self-officiated game, players can try and resolve conflicts or calls amongst themselves. You will sometimes see an observer come in, particularly if the call takes more than 10 seconds. An observer will come in to be able to resolve or just get the game moving by calling what's called a contest. A contest will mean that the disc will remain where it was before the foul call, but there will be...
The observers in this case ruling that that was not a foul, a clean block by Pesh, and Colorado gets a break chance. Pesh picking up close to the sideline,
but in bounds.
Shayna Brock, but the turn going the other direction. A lot of contact there between Cheryl Sue and Alex Daniels.
And it looks like Sue is signaling that that was a foul and is indicating that Colorado should retain the disc.
Yeah, those open hands low, signaling no contest. Daniels brings it back in play. Mimak over and gets it.
These discs the wind has died down today, but discs are sailing.
Changing wind directions. Pesh drops that one. A gift for Seattle. Sue trying to capitalize upfield. Too far for Jesse Crowley.
Crowley is a great receiver, just a little too far.
Mimak goes over the pile to Erickson. A turnover on the first throw. Tremonti to Erickson. And up line, the bread and butter of Seattle's offense. Hannah Kawhi with the score for Seattle. It took a couple of tries, but they got there.
And so now they have the 2-point lead, Katie, as we pointed out. Because they started this second quarter on offense, they get to take the advantage of the fact that they ended the last quarter also scoring.
Erickson with the lift up and then pivot to move the mark to Kawhi. This is not Kawhi's first season on Tempest, but took some time away and is returning to the team this year. Has been a really impactful add for this Tempest side.
Yes, an impact already felt. 1 goal, 1 assist already in this game.
Nelson facing the Seattle Cup. You can see 3 defenders trying to take away the area in front of the thrower. Thorpe and Dixon. Colorado adjusting to try to go around those defenders. Dixon in the middle of the field. Now upfield for Kawabata. Ito stretching it deep and going from the far side. Jezierski thought it was going to come. Both teams jumping early.
Oh no, Jade McLaughlin and Ito, I think miscommunicating between them. Ito pulling back. And what would have been a score? A call, though.
I believe that this is actually going to be on the throw. It's looking like Rina Kawabata and Decker are talking about a foul.
Jezierski saying, "Yeah, I'm not going to give up the disc till you tell me to."
Yeah, those are the receivers, and you can see the amicable nature between those players. And that is where the discussion is having. Kawabata calling a foul on Decker on this throw.
Obviously, I saw it live, but I was looking downfield. But hard to say that would have been a foul, given the throw really did go where Kawabata wanted it to go. And typically, when we think of foul calls, we think of a throw that is impacted.
Yeah, and you can see that there was contact before, but the actual throw wasn't impacted, and Kawabata signaling with almost erased hands is that the call was actually retracted, which is a great job of the players talking about it. Jezierski, the angle that Thorpe took there with Jezierski, it looked like Jezierski had caught it, and Thorpe was coming in a little bit hot from the far side.
So one of the things we do try and maintain in the WL is to make sure that we do play safely. Sometimes these collisions happen, but the idea is that players are trying to be aware of the surroundings and each other and not trying to institute contact that's unnecessary or affirmative.
Too far from Jones, intended for Jezierski.
This would be a hold for Colorado.
Jade McLaughlin looking upfield to Dixon. No one else deeper. The entire field sprinting by. Finds Thorpe in that upline space as Colorado tries to get into an end zone set. And it looks like a stall
on the end zone line.
Decker goes deep, pulling 2 defenders. Travel called on Elmi. Really learning the rule book in this point. Decker going deep. Lee
did not know it was up, or else perhaps might have had a better shot at that. Colorado now moving immediately the other direction.
McLaughlin to Kawabata. Intended for Ito a little bit further. Ito gets that one. Guarded.
Take two for those two.
The reception from Sarah Ito. The ability to catch under pressure. Dixon on the far side.
Exactly where they were before.
Scuba over the top. It looks like the catch was made by Kawabata. Lee then hit it out of Kawabata's hand. The signal of no contest as we see this going up over the top. Two defenders in the space, but that was the concession there. It almost looked like Kawabata bobbled that, but that one's going to stand as a score for Colorado. And
interesting for Colorado, that's twice they ended up in that corner and twice that they did not execute well. I'm going to say not execute well. The first instance, you saw Abby Thorpe in that corner. It was a stall. Second instance, you throw a scuba or hammer over the top, really into traffic. Not a lot of great decisive cutting from Colorado in that space right now.
But on the other hand, Seattle, who had been so consistent and clean in the beginning part of the first quarter, are just not executing down the line. We talked with Anna Maria Pape before the game, one of the coaches of the Seattle side, and saying that they hadn't been able to play a complete game in their semifinal, and that was something that they were trying to do as we're now about halfway through this second quarter. Seattle's offense upfield, now Baroma with the disc. Hasbrook to Sue. The handlers and cutters are pretty far separated.
Certainly not what Seattle would like. They do like to be largely around the disc, and Sue kind of on an island right now.
Yeah, Andrews had called stall there, the observer overruling, and I would agree that one felt very fast. This is going to stay with Sue, but the handlers are significantly disassociated from the cutters upfield. You can see that big block of space away from Sue. Now Kawhi with the disc. Inside for Cushy, too far behind the receiver.
And a break opportunity for Colorado. Short.
And a D. The throw from Vlack. Gobbled up by Cushy. Cushy, backhand of her own for Baroma. Lavoie pushing from behind. No call. And Lavoie is going to pick up.
Again, we're seeing this floatiness coming out of Colorado. These discs just popping into the air, creating these scenarios that we're seeing right now where there's going to be calls. Calls because players are saying, did I have a right to that space to get the disc?
On some level, I can see that we're talking about players coming into the back, but as a thrower, you have to minimize the risk to your receivers. And when we're putting up these floaty throws, and we're going to get another look at it, you can see it coming down, and the entire pack goes down. I honestly don't know that there's a clearly contact, but can you call a foul on that when everyone's vying for space? Hard to say.
It's an area of the game, because of the nature of the way the frisbee flies, that is going to happen, particularly as you can't quite tell. The wind has died down, but it's directionally now moving on an northeast to southwest direction, where it was more north-south yesterday.
Now in the middle of the field, this D line is going. Andrews with the backhand intended for Vlack. Is it going to stay in bounds as Sue is in pursuit? Can't read it. Foul called by Vlack.
And the question now is going to be whether it was one, catchable, and two, who initiated the contact. That's what you start to see when you see the players gesturing. We start to get a sense of what they're saying based on their body language.
Looking at this, two players looking at the disc and running as it floats in a different direction, both going up.
So it did land inbound, so at least that answers that question. And it looks like the foul call is going to be upheld. That means Colorado is going to retain the disc.
Yeah, it looks like Vlack was saying that the pressure from Sue didn't let the vertical space jump occur to be able to make an effort at that. So it isn't an automatic score because it wasn't a catch. So they're going to bring the disc to the front of the end zone, and the rest of the players should run by. As we see, it's live now. Vlack.
So Colorado alive after 2 calls and some floaty discs.
And the block by Lee. Seattle possession going the other direction, floating down. Lee gets the next one as well.
Seattle doing a good job of moving and keeping the disc moving, but more importantly, just chewed back up 50 yards.
Kawhi now with the disc to Cushy and Sue. Sue, Blade to Cushy on the other side. The defensive pressure from Seattle beats a Colorado line that was a lot of players we haven't seen very much. A departure from some of the stars.
Well, it's their D-line. Their D-line is young and fast, but the D-line's Achilles heel thus far has been the inability to get the break. And that was a hold for Seattle. Again, this point was a hold for Seattle. Colorado had the opportunity to tie the game. They were on the end zone line. Turnover. Seattle in very quick succession, moving in another direction, and now still with the 2-goal lead.
What a difference between the first quarter and this quarter. In the first quarter, we played 13 points in 12 minutes. And now with just over 2 minutes on the clock, we have only completed 3 points. It's a very changeable game between these two teams.
And a nice pull.
Nelson in the middle of the field to Hecht. Thorpe on the far side, guarded by Jezierski. Hecht stopped on the up line, has to go inside to Nelson. Middle of the field is Ito and Hecht. Veldman gets involved. Sliding for the catch was Dixon, but too low for the reception.
I think it was a drop by Dixon. Uh-oh. Nope, gives it right back.
Nelson is going to pick up for Colorado. Net gain of yards from them. Unhesitating to the end zone again. Catching the Seattle defenders looking. It's Veldman in the end zone. 1.5 minutes still on the clock.
That is 4 goals for Veldman now in the first half.
There's a marketing tent out in the village. If you're feeling a little chilly right now, you can go buy a jersey from your favorite.
1:24 left in this second quarter. We're getting close to halftime. Will Colorado tie
We
it?
also have bingo cards there if you want to play bingo. You can win prizes.
Our coverage is brought to you by Discraft, the presenting sponsor of all broadcasts of the Western Ultimate League. And Friction Gloves are the official glove of the WUL.
Got some ABBA playing?
The energy in the stands has been great this weekend, but probably nothing compares to the rowdiness of last night during the semifinal. I can ask you as a coach, because you've been in this situation and you will be in this situation in the final, but with 1.5 minutes until until the end of the first half, what is your strategy with the clock here, Manisha?
Well, Seattle is up right now, and if I'm Seattle, you want to score. You don't have to score quickly, but you want to score. You'd rather give yourself a chance to be able to have your D-line earn the half break by stopping Colorado. So you're not interested in slowing yourself down.
And Jamie Erickson will not slow down from Crowley. It was intended for Hasbrook, but from the back, the rescue from Erickson, putting Seattle up by 2.
You wanted to score. It was an efficient score. It was a quick score. It's very emblematic of what Seattle wants in terms of how they want to score. Nice huck downfield to what I think wasn't even the intended receiver per se, but Erickson, just a dangerous threat down there. 1 score, 2 assists to Erickson's name so far.
Yeah, Rachel Stockdale there almost got that block as well. Jezierski pulling.
Now Seattle wants the stop. Colorado maybe wants to score efficiently and put another point on, but really I think would be very content with just ending down 1.
Well, the last time they scored quickly, they left a second on the clock and let Seattle score to end the first quarter. Maybe trying to do something a little bit differently with their clock management as it goes upfield to Abby Thorpe, inside to Veldman. Veldman looking towards the end zone, and it's going to be intended for Thorpe, but too low. 19 seconds on the clock. They give it back to Seattle. Seattle in control.
So Seattle with an opportunity now to end this game up 3 if they maintain possession and score this point.
But even if they just maintain possession through the end of the clock, they'll shut out the hopes of Colorado. Jezierski thinks about it.
Still got 9 seconds, Sadie.
Elmy back to Jezierski. Upfield, too far for Decker.
But this is going to give Colorado 1 extra possession. Yes, the horn went off, but the disc is in the middle of the field.
Nelson for Veldman. They convert it. The clock gives and the clock takes away. 1 point game going into half.
And what quick movement. Again, the turnover, really critical mistake by Seattle in that moment because it left a second on the clock. It meant that Colorado, who wants to shoot deep, takes advantage. Veldman, very commonly the person stretching the field. Nelson, that flick huck is dangerous. And in this instance, closing the gap on the Seattle lead.
The clock management is so important. What a change of fortunes between that sometimes we think, 1 second doesn't matter. But in these timed games, I cannot think of 2 clearer examples of where the clock has changed the outcome and the point differential in this game. Seattle had a chance to be up by 3, but we're going to see how they feel about it as we go down to the sideline with Jenna Weiner.
Thanks, Katie. Here with Seattle coach Anne-Maria Pape. Anne-Maria, a couple of interesting end-of-quarter situations. What's been the conversation with the team throughout the season where you got the advantage in the first, didn't have the advantage in the second in those last moments?
Yeah, we try to focus on just like one moment at a time. And, sometimes like the clock, people aren't as paying attention to as much as we would like. We admit that, but we really try to just like focus on just that one moment, and we tell our players, just focus this possession, and that's it.
In the semifinal against San Diego, the game opened with a bunch of downwind holds. This time, a lot of play upwind, some crosswind. How's the team been adjusting to the changing wind and the changing sort of movement of play?
Yeah, so the wind is a little bit different than yesterday. It was a little stronger yesterday, and now it's a little easier just to kind of like sit things out there for people. And so we've adjusted like how we're playing D, which allows or takes away different things that what we want. But our players are kind of thinking of the mindset of like, let's just work with this wind as opposed to work against the wind.
And finally, any thoughts looking at the second half? Slim lead. Any thoughts looking forward as you hope to maintain it?
Yeah, I mean, our theme for this whole season has kind of been like fight. So that's what the theme for the second half is just like fight, fight, fight. And before I go, I need to shout out my 2 young daughters at home, Esme and Edie. I know you're watching, and I just wanted to say hi.
Thank you. Hi to all the fans at home. Thank you, Coach. Good luck in the second half.
We love the shout-outs from the coaching staff as we see Seattle huddling. We're going to take a break at halftime, but more action coming up. It's a 1-point game here at the Western Ultimate League Championship weekend.
up, I just jumped out of my seat.
Wow, what a beautiful grab.
Creatine is only for extreme athletes who eat dominance.
Actually,
for
let's skip that part. Combat Candy is for everyone who trains hard and deserves better than choking down powder. 5 grams of science-backed creatine in a gummy that turns supplement routine into something to look forward to. Just because your workout is serious business doesn't mean your creatine supplement is to be. Combat Candy. Making strength frickin' delicious. Try it at combatcandies.com.
Championship weekend for the Western Ultimate League. This bronze medal match, the third place game between Colorado Alpenglow and Seattle Tempest. Both having won championships before are now their first time completing for bronze, but we have had an exciting first half of play. Manisha, what was the story of this half?
I mean, a very clean first quarter, then marked by a somewhat messier second quarter. That first quarter, the final score was 7-6 in Seattle's favor. Seattle still keeping that lead with a 1-goal lead in that second quarter, but only 3 goals scored apiece in that second quarter. A lot more messiness, a lot more slowing downs of offenses. No one really with any clean holds, yet continually both teams finding the end zone in the ways that they knew they wanted to, whether it's Veldman for Colorado or whether it's Erickson downfield or Cushy downfield for Seattle. Both teams are utilizing their playmakers as the way that we expected them to see it. I'm expecting a good second half. This is a tight, still game. 1-goal lead right now for Seattle, and a precarious one at that. Seattle lost the lead yesterday before they finished against San Diego. Colorado right now in a position, they have been already one time this weekend, which is down coming into the second half. But both of these teams have a lot more frisbee to play.
We'll see which one of them can go the distance. Colorado being led by Rory Veldman in the end zone, and Jamie Erickson gets up for that one. Which team's stars will make big plays? Who is going to leave something else on the field? A little bit of frustration from both teams, but we're going to see who can really go the distance. More action coming up right after this. It's championship weekend for the Western Ultimate League, and our coverage is made possible by Discraft, the presenting sponsor of all broadcasts. Friction gloves are the official glove of the WUL. Combat Candy, the premier sponsor of the WUL. And Breakmark, the official apparel provider of the Western Ultimate League. It's been a big half, but someone who's a little bit closer to the sideline will have more to say. Down to Jenna.
Thanks, Katie. Here with one of the Colorado coaches. Coach, some interesting end-of-quarter situations there. That last one to your advantage. What has the team been talking about in terms of end-of-quarter situations? I mean, again, one worked in your favor, one didn't. So,
yeah, and a quarter is key. If we're able to take away the last possession for a quarter, it gives us an extra shot to each quarter. Something we've been working all year, so we're going to try and hit that in the second half.
Sounds good. So, Rory Feldman playing great so far. Ari, obviously, they're getting in the action as usual. But Abby Thorpe, not maybe quite as involved. What is Seattle doing to help limit her contributions after the 8 goals from yesterday?
Abby had a killer game yesterday, which was great. But we want to use our depth. So Abby's taking some of the toughest matchups today, which is opening up some space for Rena, for Rory, for Jade, and Ito downfield. And so we're going to keep running through our full line.
Sounds good. Any thoughts coming into the second half as y'all try and make this comeback?
We got 1 point to make up. It's a much closer game, so we're excited to finish this out.
Sounds good. Good luck, Coach.
Thank you.
I want to hear all 30 plus
That was Coach Madison Olesen of the Colorado Alpenglow. 1 point to play. These are the stats from the first half.
This looks remarkably like their season stats, Katie.
Oh, correct.
If you looked at it.
Wouldn't it be there? That was the half stats. The blocks are what really jump out to me. 7 for Tempest.
Correct. And Colorado just has not been able to generate turnovers. Yes, there's been turnovers, but Colorado needs to generate it. This was the same issue I brought up at the beginning of this broadcast. If Colorado wants a chance to win this game, they're going to have to generate blocks.
Well, they're starting out the second half on offense. Seattle wants to deny them the opportunity to tie it up here. Working through the zone, Nelson and Thorpe finding space on the far side or on the near side to Hecht.
Beautiful throw. Uncovered.
Yeah, Seattle transitioning to person and missing a matchup. Antolin very far away, was previously guarding the deep space, now taking the Nelson matchup as Thorpe breaks the mark. Veldman thinks about that lefty backhand and instead throws it to Nelson, who has to lay out to catch it. Inside, Ito over the shoulder, trying to lay out, but a little bit behind the receiver. And a turnover from Colorado to start the second half.
It starts, that inside out was late, but credit Ito for making that even possibly remotely catchable.
Veldman tries to jump and get it. Jezierski putting it the full length of the field all the way down.
Now we're going to run into a high stall.
But it's a score instead for Lauren Page. The previous reception by Anna Petty. What a throw.
How quickly. Tide's turn here.
What a throw from Jezierski. The reception from Petty on the far side, and you can see Page on the far side pushing up into the end zone, unguarded in that space. Nelson can't get there. And a break from Seattle to extend their lead
in this second half.
Nine, 11, the break from Seattle, a clean break. We haven't seen any of those since the first quarter. But a good moment to bring it back as Alex Daniels almost throws it behind Hannah Mimic.
And Colorado now playing what you call your hybrid line, not your normal offensive line on this point.
Daniels pivoting. Colorado has just lost yards so far, struggling to connect with their cutters upfield. Inside to McLaughlin. Pesh, guarded by Sue. The lefty blade almost behind, so reminiscent of that previous throw. That one intended for McLaughlin.
Almost off the back.
Almost off her back. Impossible to read as you're running full speed away there. Another break opportunity for Seattle. Sue with the disc. Lonnie Nguyen. Now Kat Chung with the disc. Page. Erickson
elevates,
yoinks that one out of the sky and resets calmly to Sue in the backfield. Win with it again to Erickson, trying to get into that cutter space. Moving. Erickson with the flick. Page underneath it. Two players vying for space, but McLaughlin gets the block.
So that's the opportunity now for Colorado to close this gap.
Hannah Mimic gets blocked by Elmi. Elmi picks up. Elmi and Nguyen going up line. Will they do it again? They do. The fundamentals are Tempest's friend at the front of the end zone. As a coach, Manisha, what are you saying to the Colorado players who have been beaten by the same mechanic over and over again?
I mean, I think it's so hard because especially if you start thinking about throwing and throwing mechanics and you're really starting to think about the wind, become less concerned about the mechanics and you become more concerned about the wind. You really just have to maintain the mechanics despite the conditions.
And there's a look at that block by Elmi, directing traffic as the rest of the players get set in the end zone, the dump, and then you see the open side throw, and Nguyen puts on the Jets to throw and go. That is the mechanic that has been working for Tempest all day long.
And right now the differential in this game is D-line efficiency. And that's what Seattle has right now, and that is what Colorado has struggled with. But more importantly, Colorado needs a hold right now.
But it's also the defensive pressure. Like we saw the number of blocks. That was a stone-cold hand block from Ikran Elmi, known as Icky to the rest of her teammates. Inside, Nelson and Veldman working with the disc. Thorpe there, going deep. Kawabata thinks about it. Not ready to unleash. A stall called by Decker.
And clearly a contest question, but Kawabata still holding the disc.
Yeah, in this case it would probably be a fast count call. Because it wasn't if the disc left Kawabata's hands, because that is irrefutable. It is still in her hands. Stall is coming in on 5, being signaled there by head observer Josie Ma. And a timeout being taken by Colorado.
Again, the high stall, coaches utilize the timeout to reset that stall.
This has been the O-line. Are you thinking that Colorado is going to replace anyone on this line, or is this simply a preservation of possession?
Well, based on what we're seeing, it is just maintaining the same persons on the field, but really just giving a chance for them to talk, because they do feel a little out of sorts in this quarter, Katie. They have not quite connected with the type of efficiency that we were very used to throughout this whole season.
This was the first regular season where Colorado won an away game.
What a fun fact.
They had actually won a championship without winning a game away from home. And this season, they said that they got that monkey off of their back. They were able to win away at Utah and Oregon to start off the season. And their offense has been tested, but this is a whole new experience of being in a championship situation that isn't at home. And Colorado has looked a little bit shakier than they did in the regular season. As they come back, Nelson in the middle, working with Hecht. Upfield to Dixon, but the block! What a run-through block from Sioux.
A quiet player, but effective on D.
Elmy calming the troops. Finds Jezierski with the break throw. Jezierski looking towards the end zone. Page finding space in the middle with Decker, and Jezierski dropping it a little bit too high and floaty. A loss of concentration, giving Colorado the disc back.
Jezierski was already looking for the end zone.
And Page gets the block there. 2 blocks on this point for Seattle, but they have to be efficient with getting the score too high. Petty there getting knocked into by Dixon, taking an injury.
Yeah, it does look like as Dixon came down, slightly landing on like the back of the knees of Petty.
Yeah, trying to turn around, and Dixon made a lot of contact there. We see Erickson and Lavoie coming in for Seattle and Colorado respectively. Nelson so quick on the restarts, really giving Colorado an advantage. Kawabata leading too far. Jezierski picks it up, and the backhand goes. Page is in pursuit, too far.
Was that a backhand or a scuba?
It had a lot of shape on it. And too far for the receiver. Ambitious throw from Jezierski. We've seen points like this earlier, right at the end of the first quarter, which had 3 turnovers apiece, which is where we stand now. This is a Colorado 0 point to start, but Nelson further back than they have had to be at any point now on their own end zone line, finding Ito. Veldman upfield, has Lavoie running deep, resets with Thorpe and Nelson. Thorpe being marted by Jezierski. The layout attempt by Erickson. Veldman unhesitating on that backhand upfield. Page blocking the lane that Kawabata had to run in.
Well, Page outrunning Kawabata in that instance, right? That just taking the space, making it clear to Kawabata that there was no chance she was going to be able to get that.
Yeah, getting there first. And a Seattle timeout on this line after 7 turnovers in this point.
Second timeout of this point, Katie.
Well, these teams regroup. We're going to thank our sponsors. Breakmark is the WUL's official apparel provider. And Combat Candy as the premier sponsor of the WUL. What a point for Lauren Page.
Now I do think we're going to see some substitutions here, Katie.
That is so many points. I wonder if these teams are suffering from fatigue. A while coming back in as the O-line for Seattle looks like they're out there with Kawhi picking up.
And a smart move by Seattle to now bring in players who've been largely rested for the last 5 minutes as this point has continued on.
Kawhi to Tremonti and Sue, the bounce back. Sue with the big forehand intended for Hasbrook, but far. The wind pushing it down. It might be new players, but it feels like same storylines. Colorado, another possession. McLaughlin, Daniels, and a block from Tremonti. Tries to be reeled in by Maxfield. Midfield now for Tempest.
Now 1 turnover apiece for both teams. 2 for Seattle.
That's another turnover. But in this point, 10 total, 5 for each team. What a grind this point is. Sometimes we call them marathon points. And somebody who might know a little bit more about that on the sideline, Jenna, what are you seeing from the players?
I mean, you were saying it earlier, Katie. The players are starting to show a little bit of fatigue. I think especially for this Alpenglow team who had to play in that later semifinal and running out a lot of the same players. We see Abby Thorpe just turnover right there. Maybe Colorado not quite being able to keep up with the fitness as we get in the later stages of this game.
Yeah, Kawhi now with the disc for Seattle, finding Cushy in the middle of the field. They're getting closer in that field position game, working against poaching marks. I feel like Thorpe hasn't left the field for 10 minutes at this point, but Kirkland.
Nice switch.
Guarded by Daniels, the handler defenders switching. Baroma
calling foul.
Facet Carmen coming through the legs a little bit there.
So the call is immediately going to go to the observer in a situation like this. When both players are often on the ground, it's very difficult for them to make an assertion. So they immediately go to the observer, and that's what's happening at this point.
Yeah. Seeing it again as the yellow card comes out. This is where Baroma is pushed by Carmen, coming through a little bit dangerously on the legs, which is maybe not intentional, but certainly want to minimize risk to players, as Baroma is going to get the disc here for Seattle. And it was ruled as a dangerous play.
And that's what you saw briefly. It was the yellow card. That's the signifying of a dangerous play. So you know, Katie, Colorado has not scored this quarter.
Hasbrook to Kawhi to Sue, looking for the end zone, and it's Kirkland! Seattle finally scores in what is a marathon point, but a break for Tempest. 3 breaks in a row to start the second half and potentially end the second half, because there is only 1 minute and 37 seconds on the clock.
In the third quarter.
In the in the third quarter.
So I can imagine Colorado's going to be putting on that original O-line. Now, this is a team that has been clearly trying to stretch the field, but they have not been able to connect. The real question in my mind is, are they going to play small, or are they going to continue to stay with this big ball, big stretching the field mentality?
Jamie Erickson, this original D-line, back on the field for Seattle. They started that previous point, but with 2 timeouts, the personnel changed, and they're able to put a very strong defensive line against Colorado's.
Oh, an errant pull is going to give Colorado the disc about 20 yards out.
With a few points on the clock, do you think that's errant, or were they trying to roll it out the side and it was just shorter than intended?
It felt like the disc turned unexpectedly for Erickson. And if you wanted to roll it out, you would ideally have it land on the ground.
Veldman with the disc for Colorado. Thorpe notably not on the field this point. Hecht for Veldman. Inside, and efficient offense for the Colorado side as Ito gets the score. Their first score of the third quarter.
A nice response from Colorado. Yes, you are correct. Thorpe is off the field, but this is largely their original O-line. Veldman really running the tempo of this and continuing to maintain an impact on this scoreboard.
And getting a chance for the defensive line to get out there. Thorpe is going to be on the field on defense.
And a smart switch. Again, understanding that you don't have Sarah Levin this game. You can put Thorpe on the D-line, use Thorpe's ability to be both a hybrid as a handler or as a cutter to be able to potentially generate a break once you get a turn. But that's the thing. Colorado needs to get a turn in order to get a break.
They have been unable to get a ton of blocks. A lot of the turns that Seattle has made have been throwing errors that have gone a little bit too far. That pull going right past the 50-yard line. And a slightly shorter field as Cheryl Sue picks up. Thinks about that one throw score. Crowley. Ye-Sun Lee. The throws behind Cushy. Sue almost gets Daniels to cough it back up, but Colorado on offense. McLaughlin inside. Well caught.
Fancy
by
catch.
Lavoie, bouncing off the body and then being caught.
There's called
a pick up field in that vertical stack where you see all those players coming together. The disc is going to remain in Abby Thorpe's hand, trapped on the sideline.
And this is the sideline they've struggled with, Katie. This sideline is where they've been having a lot of trouble trying to get the disc off in terms of a reset, and they've been forced to high stall situations.
Cushy on the mark on Thorpe. Seeing players, they're figuring out where to come back into. It looks like Daniels is frustrated with the pick call, honestly. But we'll see as players are moving in the pre-stall. McLaughlin takes advantage on that inside lane. Around to Daniels. Too far, the clock runs out, and Colorado squanders that possession. I think we're looking to see if the horn blew before or after the turn. They're discussing whether or not Seattle gets one possession here.
And it looks like everyone is saying that the quarter has ended. Seattle now with a 3-goal lead leading into the fourth now.
No score to end the third quarter, but Seattle is up 13-10. Fourth quarter action coming soon.
Creatine is only for extreme athletes who eat dominance.
Actually, let's skip that part. Combat Candy is for everyone who trains hard and deserves better than choking down powder. 5 grams of science-backed creatine in a gummy that turns supplement routine into something to look forward to. Just because your workout is serious business doesn't mean your creatine supplement should be. Combat Candy. Making strength frickin' delicious. Try it at combatcandies.com.
The fourth quarter is about to start. Seattle currently leads over Colorado Alpenglow. Manisha, there's some things that you wanted to talk about.
Well, so as the camera's moving over, yes, Colorado now currently down 3 in this fourth quarter. This is one of 2 games we have today, Katie. The final and championship game hosting at 3 p.m. Pacific time. But if you are in the Bay Area or interested in coming, we have an adoption mobile, y'all. You can adopt a dog today. But more importantly, make sure you stay tuned to this broadcast, because at the end of today's broadcast, this third place game broadcast, we will be issuing and awarding the Player of the Year awards for the WUL.
Fourth quarter starting now. Robin Fassett, Carmen, one of the captains of this Alpenglow, with the pole. Hannah Kawai to Jamie Erickson. Trapped on this side a little bit. Sue gets it off the line to Cushy, looks to the far side. Well marked. And a turn and a block by Andrews.
Is this the chance? Is this the
One
beginning?
Of the few clean blocks that Colorado has gotten. Floating over the pile. Erickson comes down with it. Sue lays Erickson out, retaining possession. Seattle having to work for every single cut here. It looks like a pick is going in the stack, called on Kawhi.
Kawhi's like, who, me? Who, me? Look at where I am.
Waiting to see what the stall is going to come in on for Sue. Sue being marked by Vlack. Looks like 5. Kirkland, the outlet. Back in the hands of Sue to Cushy. Hasbrook drops it.
A chance now for Colorado to be able to get a break. They've not had one since the first quarter.
And a block by Erickson. Don't know if that was a misthrow, but I think
It
Jamie
was a
got
hand block.
a hand on that one.
That's Erickson's 4th block by my book.
Kirkland trapped on the sideline. You can see the jerseys rippling as the wind changes for Erickson. The grab!
What a grab! Erickson with the impact point right now. Seattle saying, we are not going quietly into the night. You're going to have to take it.
What a catch by Jamie Erickson, getting the block, going deep, and look in between 2 defenders, laying out the one-hand trailing edge catch. Well caught, Jamie Erickson.
Well done indeed. And Colorado squandering 2 opportunities there to get a break and make this game closer. Right now the lead extended for Seattle.
10-14, a hold from Seattle, but the defensive intensity from Colorado Alpenglow much better there. They were able to generate blocks, but going the other direction, the focus on the offensive side of the disc to punch in those breaks.
When they look at this film, yesterday's and today's, assuming this result holds, which we're not saying, Colorado has the ability to come back very quickly, but those are the moments they're going to have to look at.
Hecht and Nelson working together for Alpenglow against that 2-person defense. We're seeing Hana Kawai come over onto the defensive side of the disc here as Thorpe gets it by threading the needle. Big throw going up. And it's in the hands and out of the hands.
A drop.
Arena Kawabata almost too open and too much time to think about it.
A perfect throw from Thorpe and just wasted by Colorado.
Elmi to pick up Quinn and Elmi looking for the inside. Baroma and Kawhi both on the sideline here. Elmi. Win upfield. The disc turns over, but caught by Kat Chung, putting it deep. A little bit floaty. Baroma gets it. Leading for Kawhi, not yet in the end zone, but on the doorstep, it's Kawhi to Baroma, making it look easy, capitalizing on the Alpenglow mistakes.
And mistakes, that's what we're going to keep talking about. These are mistakes. Seattle has certainly earned blocks this game, but a lot of these turnovers are self-inflicted.
Drea Baroma, one of the captains of the Seattle side, and is really an energy fireball on the sideline. She had a little bit of a quiet game last night, but today you can see why Seattle relies on her, because she is just such a firecracker on the field. She's in the right place, and her work rate is insane.
We can keep talking about what incredible players on both rosters. Let's be clear, both rosters. But right now, Katie, you are correct. The stars have aligned for Seattle.
Daniels centering to Mimak. Pesh on the far side.
Test.
Veldman back into the middle. Mimek, Highstall finds Daniels with that great forehand, and then too close. Della Penta gets a hand on it, and then Antolin cements the block. Going the other direction, it's Elmi. The defensive pressure from Seattle continues to mount, leading for Decker. It's too far. A turn apiece. Pesh for Veldman. Page almost gets there. Backhand from Veldman, floating into that space. Della Penta underneath, but three offensive players, and it's Sarah Pesh who refuses to deny her teammate. She is getting the score.
I think she literally took it away from her teammate in that regard. There were three receivers in that area. Pesh clearly not the intended receiver, but to your point, Pesh would not be denied. She is saying, hey, Colorado, we still have 7.5 minutes to go. Let's make this a game.
Yeah, Sarah Pesh is also the player who threw that first flick upfield. And then went and got the score. I think that sometimes we've seen Colorado miscue a little bit in that space, and Pesh was not taking a chance on that score with 7 minutes, 19 seconds on the clock, almost half of the fourth quarter gone. But now they get a chance to go downwind for a break opportunity. Seattle has not really been fazed by turnovers. They're continuing to work. We'll see if they can make this a clean one. It's a 4-point game.
This is the chance. This is the opportunity. This is where Colorado must break.
Baroma, Tremonti, and Crowley.
There's the turn.
Black gets a block.
Can they capitalize?
Pivoting, looking for upfield, in the middle, floating to the far side.
It's going to be a stall contest. It's going to be a stall contest, but there is a drop on the other end, so will it matter?
It would still be a turnover. The question is where the disc comes back in.
Another squandered opportunity for Colorado. Regardless of the outcome, that was the opportunity to get back into this game. Less than a minute taken off the clock. Make it a 3-point game again.
Yeah, Grace Brown with the disc there. Not finding a clear outlet quickly, and it looks like it was a foul contest, so the
disc is going to stay in the end zone. Sue is running to pick it up. 1 turnover each. I feel like I've said that many times. With the beginning of the game, the first quarter was so clean, but then turnovers have littered the rest of the game. But Seattle steadfast. Cushy to Crowley.
And you can feel the pressure being ramped up by Colorado here. They understand the implications of this moment.
The defense is not allowing Seattle to gain a ton of yards, forcing them into their reset structure over and over. That time going up to Erickson. Erickson to Baroma. Once they get past the handler defenses, it's off to the races. Kirkland inbounds to Sue. Sue up and over the pile. Cushy with space. And the score for Seattle, upwind. The cutter-to-cutter connection from Seattle is something to be feared.
And yet, Cheryl Sue, in my book, 4 assists so far to Cushy's 4 goals. Yes, Katie, they are moving cutter to cutter, but when it counts and when it's needed, it's the handler putting the disc in the end zone.
Look at the space on this throw from Sue. No defender could even get close. The fans are starting to get into it. I love those Tempest batons, I guess I would call them.
Noisemakers.
Also true, at least as long as they're not the vuvuzelas. Those haunt my memories from crowd noisemakers.
I missed that World Cup, and I'm so sad about that.
I think we're both dating ourselves a little bit in terms of our soccer fandom, but if you're a fan of the Western Ultimate League and you couldn't make it to this championship weekend and you're a Seattle Tempest fan, you have to be excited about this scoreline if you can't see them in the final.
Absolutely. And more importantly, I hope you're excited about the final, which will also be coming after this broadcast at 3 p.m. Pacific. It will be a new champion will be crowned this year for the WUL. Will it be San Diego Super Bloom? Will it be the Bay Area Falcons?
And offside is why this disc is coming back to midfield. That's probably a loss of about 50 yards considering where that pole originally landed. Fortunate.
And a smart move by Seattle to play zone. Take away some clock.
Dixon gets it through. Veldman has Thorpe. Decker stops that first one but can't stop the second. It's Thorpe to Dixon inside, and Ito is in the right place at the right time, intended for Hecht, but another on the stat sheet for Captain Sarah Ito.
And once they got past that cup, Katie, you saw just the pace. This is what made Colorado so effective during the regular season. Their ability to just move the disc before the D could settle in, and more importantly, utilizing their great throwers and great receivers to generate scores. But is it enough? 4 minutes left. Can they make up 4 goals?
A lot of players coming over onto this D-line. We're seeing Veldman, Thorpe, McLaughlin.
Yeah, you have to load this line, Katie. There's 4 minutes left.
Kawhi. And Erickson in the middle. Kawhi getting the around. Flat marks from Colorado, and it gives them a turn. A change in tactics. Lavoie and Facet Carmen.
They have to convert, and they have to convert quickly.
Veldman through traffic, too far.
There was the opportunity.
Anticipating Facet Carmen to take one more step upfield. A little miscue has big implications. Sue upfield to Cushy. A pick or a foul, a little bit of a collision in the middle of the Seattle stack, which has been pretty compact this weekend when they're running this vertical stack. Disc is going to stay with Cushy. It looks like a stall count of 4. Sue Kirkland has Erickson coming in for that break throw, but goes to handler motion instead. Now Kirkland finding Cushy upfield. Has Hasbrook running.
High stall.
Kawhi. Kirkland. A stall on the throw.
Yes, on that throw. That little loopy throw that seemed to be looking for Kirkland, but Kawhi came down with the question is, was the release after 7 or not?
Yeah, Shayna Brock is the thrower. It looks like the stall was overruled, but 1 continuation, so it's going to go back to Kawhi.
2 minutes now on the clock.
Kawhi to Sue. Sue being guarded by Thorpe. Baroma. Patient on this end zone. They're really working it back and forth. It looks like a force middle. Hasbrook inside to Sue. Laying out was Maxfield. The connection between the Seattle players proves unbeatable.
And Sue's first score of the game, typically the one throwing the disc into the end zone, in this case just slicing between 2 defenders in that space. Now really effectively, Katie, putting this game away with 1:37 left to go.
5 points.
A nice warm day.
We talked with coaches from Tempest about wanting to play a complete game this last game of the season. Does this feel like a complete game to you despite the amount of turnovers we've seen?
I'm distracted by kittens right now, Katie. I can't answer that question.
They can be pretty cute. I will say the championship weekend has had such a fun fan atmosphere. There are DJs, there are booths, there's food, there's animal adoptions, there's a photo booth. It has been really a celebration of the league. Colorado, the #1 seed going into this tournament, seeing if they can reverse their fortunes. McLaughlin can't get that one.
Seattle just has to hold clock.
Chung to Crowley. Thinks about hitting the middle of the field. Pesh on the mark. A timeout being the saving grace there. A timeout taken by Seattle.
Appears to have been taken before the throwaway. Players often very grateful when that happens. Crowley saluting the coaches on the sideline. That stat will not count against Crowley.
Well, that's, you can see Anna Maria Pape and Deb Scheibe, one of the longtime coaches of this Tempest program. And this has been a redemption tour for Seattle Tempest. They won the first 2 championships in 22 and 23 and did not make championship weekend last year. So this has been about a return to the top. They fell short in semis by 1 point, but they really wanted to be back here at championship weekend.
Not only back here, but let's talk about the fact that there was roster turnover, a coaching turnover as well for Seattle. So they're really re-identifying who they are as a program. But more importantly, Katie, you're right. They have to be pleased with the outcome of this weekend. Yes, they didn't make it into the championship game, but they finished 3rd overall in the seasons, and they're largely going to finish 3rd in this when all is said and done.
And they're taking down Colorado, who was the #1 seed in the league with a perfect record.
And defending champions.
Win to Chung as they come back in.
What a block.
Jade McLaughlin will not let it go to Petty. A turnover saved by the timeout, but given back to Colorado on the restart. Daniels.
30 seconds on the clock.
Out of Nelson's hand. Slow to get up, touching the shoulders, signaling an injury. As the coach runs on to see if they're okay.
And it's just hard. You're at the end of the game. You're not in the game you wanted to be, and you certainly don't want to end it with an injury.
Now, Ari Nelson is the reigning offensive player of the year and is nominated for the award again this year, not wanting to see them go down here. Good upon reflection to see them getting up and walking off under their own power as Veldman comes in.
Nelson having a banner year, in fact. And again, statistically, in so many categories, leading the WUL, whether it's in throwing yards, just banner year.
Veldman signals that the disc is live.
Now the clock will not restart until the disc is brought back to the top of the end zone.
Jones to Crowley, the quick score, another one for Seattle, now up by 6.
A statement finish for Seattle, making it very clear that they are a team that needs to be reckoned with next year and perhaps years into the future. This is a young squad. Yes, they are anchored by incredible mainstays like a Hannah Kawhi, but this is a young team, and we are going to see these names. We're going to be saying these names a lot, Katie.
Honestly, I was looking at the players that they didn't bring at their practice player squad, and we talk in a lot of other divisions about the strength of the Seattle youth scene, the amount of players that are contributing in the college program. I think like 70% of college teams have players from the Seattle youth scene. It hasn't matriculated yet to this Tempest level, but soon I'm excited to see what is going to happen from the players coming out of the Seattle area.
And certainly if they're watching at home, thinking this could be them.
Inside to Veldman, 2 seconds on the clock. Big throw going up, trying to end it with a bang, and Kawabata gets redemption for the block, or for the drop earlier in the game. Colorado ends with a score, but a loss. Seattle Tempest, the winners of the third place game.
And Veldman, just a quick shout out. That was 5 scores, 3 assists for Veldman. A similar stat line we saw to Abby Thorpe last night, but unfortunately just not enough contributions from the rest of the roster.
Seattle celebrating the emphatic victory in the third place game.
And as a reminder, stay tuned, folks. We are going to be issuing the awards for the WL Players of the Game. They are setting up right now for those awards. Players are being asked to head over because we're going to acknowledge not only our recipients, but of course the winners as well.
Yeah. Season awards as the players slap hand.
Certainly a disappointing weekend for Colorado. Let's acknowledge that. Not where they wanted to be, not what they were hoping for this weekend, but very entertaining team to watch. That is for sure.
Well, I look forward to the next season when we talk about them not being able to win in the postseason away, echoing their journey. It's one small step at a time when you look at programs like this, and not just one season, but season over season growth. It's one of the things I've really loved about watching this league. The statistics are starting to tell a story. But more than the statistics are the plays themselves made by players. And this Discraft play of the game was one for the ages. This catch by Jamie Erickson between 2 defenders. What a moment for Seattle Tempest. putting on a show.
Of course, the irony of Jamie Erickson, just so much impact both on the defensive and offensive side as you see the Seattle Tempest roster taking a team photo to celebrate their third place finish here at championship weekend.
Like the 3 fingers in celebration of their win. Okay, and as they finish taking a photo, we're going to hear from highlight playmaker Jamie Erickson down on the field.
Thanks, Jamie. Congratulations on the win. You play excellently. What helped your team have so much success this afternoon?
I think for one, we were really excited to play Colorado. Like, we hadn't seen them all season, and all season we were like, we just want to play Colorado. So I think that helped us really come in excited, honestly. And it's just, I mean, it's the culmination of a full season, and it's hard to not play with joy at that point.
You've been on this team before, but you were out last season, took a season away, now back, now returning to championship weekend. What is it like to return to this Tempest program, return to championship weekend, looking ahead to next season?
It's awesome. I mean, it's new players, some of the same players, so it's great to play with some of the same people, and some of the younger players. It's just so exciting to see like what's up and coming, especially in the Seattle community. And I think too, it's fun to come back being a different player myself and just continuing to get to grow and learn with my teammates.
Any last shout outs before we let you go and celebrate with your team?
Oh gosh, just shout out to all the people watching and supporting. I know Mixtape planned their practice around watching us today, so shout out Mixtape. Yeah, thanks to all the supporters.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Go celebrate with your team. Again, awards coming up here shortly, and then the final, 3 p.m. Don't go away.
For WUL awards, please make your way across the field.
Couldn't have said it better myself. More to come. We'll hear from more players as well as the WUL season awards after this. What a weekend we have had. There on the field, you can see the huddle of San Diego Super Bloom, who is about to warm up for the final in just about an hour's time. Seattle Tempest just beat Colorado Alpenglow to take the third place crown. But the real prize, the hardware, is up for battle in an hour. We are seeing these players take the field, but Manisha, what stood out to you about this third place game?
I mean, one, it demonstrated that Seattle Tempest is back and ready to continue to be a contender, but it also demonstrated a weakness that perhaps we had never seen out of Colorado until this weekend, which is their D-line. And the D-line is going to be the story for Colorado. As I said, if they go back and look at this film, they are going to see the number of opportunities that they were given to be able to close out games, take leads in games. Unfortunately, we're not able to execute on. So there's going to be a lot of talk, I know, in Colorado about how to improve, what is going to have to change. But Colorado cannot put their heads down. A 6-0 season is nothing to be sad about. That is an excellent record. They won at home. They won away, Katie, as you pointed out, and they have incredibly entertaining players on that roster.
One of the things I noted about the regular season with Colorado Alpenglow is that they didn't play the Bay Area or Seattle in the regular seasons, and those were the two teams that took them down here at championship weekend. Do you think that they're going to advocate for a more arduous regular season schedule come next season?
Oh, Katie, you're touching on so many early season conversations about what the structure of this season would look like and whether or not it made sense to do a round robin or create these opportunities to have home away matchups amongst common opponents. And that is always the challenge when you're developing a league like the WUL, which is in its 4th year thus far. And as we're starting to grow and expand.
Okay. First, the annual WUL Awards honor outstanding players who have made meaningful and noteworthy contributions to the league and their teams. Each nominee exemplifies excellence in their respective roles. First up, we are pleased to introduce our nominees for 2025 Coaching Staff of the Year. The Coaching Staff of the Year winner will be a coaching staff who most significantly impacted or improved their team's performance for the 2025 season. Our finalists are Colorado Alpenglow, San Diego Superbloom, and Seattle Tempest.
And the Coaching Staff of the Year winner is Colorado Alpenglow. This season, Colorado Alpenglow led the league in goals scored and offensive efficiency. The team went undefeated 6-0 and tied for a point differential with plus 36. Alpenglow players say they are a hard-working group that always found a way to keep us pushing forward. Congratulations, Colorado Alpenglow coaching staff.
Next, our nominees for the 2025 Breakout Player of the Year. The Breakout Player of the Year nominees are newer players who had a standout season or significantly larger impact on their team than previous seasons. Here are our nominees. From Arizona Sidewinders, Brittany Stetmeyer. From Bay Area Falcons, Jorda Cardosa. From Seattle Tempest, Julia Hasbrook. From Oregon Soar, Noelle Takahashi. From Colorado Alpenglow, Rina Kawabata.
All right. And now for the moment you've been waiting for, your 2025 Western Ultimate League Breakout Player of the Year is Brittany Stetmeyer. Week after week, Brittany Brito Stetmeyer was a standout, putting up elite level numbers and shouldering a massive offensive load. She played more offensive points than anyone else in the league and did it with efficiency and poise, posting a 91% completion rate. Her stats tell one story, the league leader in goals and receiving yards, but her presence on the field tells another. Game-saving layouts at the midfield, full extension bids in the end zone, heads-up centering passes that keep offensive possessions alive. She played with grit, field vision, and a level of intensity that can't be captured on a spreadsheet. Congratulations, Brittany and Arizona Sidewinders.
Now, our nominees for the 2025 Defensive Player of the Year. The Defensive Player of the Year nominees are players who had the most significant impact on their team's defensive success throughout the season. Here are our nominees. From Bay Area Falcons, Georgia Cardosa. From Oregon Soar, Jackie Riley. From Utah Wild, Justine Sherwink. From San Diego Superbloom, Caitlin Weaver. And from Seattle Tempest, Sadie Jezierski. Let's hear a little more about our nominees. Georgia Cardosa. While the league may not currently track foot blocks, we know Cardosa made a record with 3 blocks in 1 game. Her stifling person defense elevated her to finish 4th in the league with 10 blocks. Jackie Riley tied for 2nd in the league with blocks with 12. Riley finished her first season in the league with 11 goals and 4 assists. Justine Sherwink led the Wild in blocks this season with 7. Sherwink brings speed and vertical to the Wild defensive line, taking difficult matchups and moving quickly after generating the turn. Caitlin Weaver led Superbloom in defensive points played and tied for 6th in the league with 8 blocks. Weaver can generate the turn and then immediately become an offensive threat, initiating searing cuts and breakthrows. And Sadie Jezierski led the league in blocks with 16 and tied for 4th with the most blocks in a single season. She also brought offensive intensity, finishing the regular season with 17 assists, 2nd most in the league.
And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, your 2025 Western Ultimate League Defensive Player of the Year is Sadie Jezierski. Sadie Jezierski's league-leading 16 blocks this season makes her the epitome of a defensive powerhouse. This season, Sadie reached another level and led Seattle Tempest's charge to the postseason. Jezierski is known for punishing mistakes with her blocks and immediately turning them into powerful hucks, which led her to 17 assists. Congratulations to Sadie and Seattle Tempest!
Now, for our 2025 Offensive Player of the Year. The Offensive Player of the Year nominees are players who had the most significant impact on their team's offensive success throughout the season. Here are our nominees. From Colorado Alpenglow, Ari Nelson. From Utah Wild, Kat Songer. From San Diego Superbloom, Kelly Iwamoto. From Arizona Sidewinders, Melissa Dunn, and also from Arizona Sidewinders, Paige Applegate. So let's hear a bit more about our nominees. Ari Nelson led the league in assists, throwing yards, and total yards with 2,740, 300 more than the next highest. She is also your 2024 Offensive Player of the Year. My bad. Kat Songer finished 3rd in the league with assists with 16 and 4th in throwing yards with 1,518. With the 3rd most points played in the league at 104, Songer played 30 more O points than any other Wild player. Kelly Iwamoto is the first player in WUL history to throw at least 900 yards in a season with fewer than 5 turnovers. She only had 3.5 turns this entire season. With Iwamoto on the field, San Diego scored 48% of their possessions, the highest rate of any Superbloom player. Melissa tied 2nd in the league with goals at 14, 2nd in receiving yards at 1,265, and to showcase Dunn's growth, previously she averaged 3 goals and 420 receiving yards in a season. Dunn maintained an impressive 89.7% completion rate and only committed 3.5 receiving errors. And Paige Applegate is back as an Offensive Player of the Year nominee for the 2nd year in a row. Applegate finished 4th in the league in assists per game and 2nd in the league with throwing yards per game. Applegate proved her worth with the highest usage rate in the league at 100% and played 2 fewer games than anyone else nominated.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Your 2025 Western Ultimate League Offensive Player of the Year is Ari Nelson. Ari Nelson is your back-to-back WUL Offensive Player of the Year. Nelson averaged 417 playing yards per game, but set a single game record in week 1 with 622 throwing yards. With a league-leading 20 assists and 2,506 throwing yards, Nelson leads the Alpenglow offense, bringing power and throwing arm that can't be stopped. And opposing coach said about Ari, "I can't get over how much the offensive load Ari takes on for their team. They are just a force with the disc." Congratulations, Ari and Colorado Alpenglow.
And now, our nominees for the 2025 WUL Most Valuable Player Award. Here are our nominees. From Colorado Alpenglow, Abby Thorpe. From San Diego Superbloom, Dina Elamalik. From San Diego Superbloom, Kayla Helton. From Bay Area Falcons, Robin Fenig. And from Colorado Alpenglow, Rory Veldman. Let's hear a bit more about our nominees. Abby Thorpe, the 2024 WUL MVP, showed up in 2025 aiming to win again. In 2025, she was the only player in the league with over 800 yards in both receiving and throwing yards. Thorpe was one of 3 players in the league to finish top 5 on her team in goals, assists, blocks, throwing yards, and receiving yards. And just yesterday, Abby set the single game record for goals with 8. Her teammates say Abby Thorpe makes the impossible possible. Dina Elamalik tied for second in the regular season in both goals and blocks. An all-around player, she has an 8 out of 10 hucks completed, the highest completion percentage in the league. Elamalik has been nominated for WUL Player Awards every year she has played. Her teammates say she is a game-changing player on offense and defense. Kayla Helton had an electric performance in 2025. Helton had 0 receiving errors in 2025 with over 1,100 receiving yards. No other player in the league with 0 receiving yards receiving errors had over 700 yards. Helton was one of 3 players in the league to finish top 5 on her team in goals, assists, blocks, throwing yards, and receiving yards. An opponent said, Helton has reached another level this season. Robin Fenig put on an award-worthy performance this season. Fenig is second in the league in throwing yards with 1,881 and was the driving force behind Bay's offense. When Fenig is on the field, she makes things happen. Her teammate said she made a huge impact on the Falcons, and that cannot be understated. Rory Veldman is an all-around player, tied 5th in the league with goals with 12, 6th with assists at 12, and 5th in yards. Veldman is a powerhouse on defense, helping Alpenglow get to their highest regular season break percentage at 44%. Veldman was a 2024 Defensive Player of the Year nominee, but this year has proven her all-around skills. Her opponent said, "Whenever I'm guarded by Rory, I'm simply staying out of the play."
All right. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, your 2025 Western Ultimate League, the most valuable player is Kayla Helton. Kayla Helton stays dominant as the WUL MVP award winner in 2022, 2023, a nominee in 2024, and now crowned again in 2025. She is the WUL's most decorated player, and for good reason. In week 1, Helton became the second ever player to record 11 combined goals and assists in the game, and it was her second career game with at least 3 goals, 3 assists, 300 throwing yards, and 300 receiving yards, a stat no one else has ever had. Helton's career stats are an outstanding 56 goals, 77 assists, and 55 blocks. She's unstoppable on both sides of the field. Congratulations to Kayla and San Diego Super Bloom!
That was the presentation of the 2025
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into our awards. In just a little while, you'll have our championship match to watch, so stick around.
That was Ali Steinfeld and Karen Coe from the board of the Western Ultimate League presenting the awards. Congratulations to all the nominees and the winners here at Championship Weekend. We just saw a fantastic third place game where Seattle Tempest took down Colorado Alpenglow 18-13. The final is coming up next.
And don't go away, y'all. The final is going to be slightly delayed, but it will be coming at you. This will be a highlight reel between San Diego Super Bloom and Bay Area Falcons. But let's look back at today's third place match. We had incredible plays on both sides of the disc. Colorado early establishing dominance, but then as we started to get to the second half of the game, Seattle pulling away slowly, punctuated by this incredible grab by Erickson.
Highlight plays all over, and we're looking forward to more in the final. It is the Bay Area versus San Diego Super Bloom. Champions to be crowned. I'm Katie Killebrew and Nisha Dariani. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.